I am Moonwalker Tanya, and this is the MJ Innocent podcast. Now, I know that I told you guys that I was trying to work on myself, but I can't really do that right now with everything that's going on. Alright, so as we have known for the past few years, Dan Reed is trying to work on a sequel to his first failure mockumentary, LN, because I refuse to say the title. So apparently I found out that Dan Reed is trying to recruit MJ fans for LN2. And we also know that Dan Reed also tried to include the estate in the mockumentary. And of course the estate said no, obviously, since the estate is currently suing HBO for the first mockumentary, so why would they be in the second one? That wouldn't make sense. And plus, we know what would happen. The estate gives the truthful side, and Dan Reed cuts it out. Now, this morning, I saw a video on Popcorn to Planet. There were so many fans who said that Dan Reed and I guess some guy named Brandon has been emailing MJ fans. I want to go on the record in saying that no one has contacted me, but all I can say is if Dan Reed contacts me, it is not going to be pretty. Because first of all, Dan Reed, you would not last 1 minute against me. Everything that comes out of your mouth is nothing but bullshit. And let me tell you something right now. I better not be included in your mockumentary. Because I know for a fact that you used my friend Matt's FTR, you used a clip of him in your first mockumentary without Matt's consent. And you do not have my consent either. So keep me out of your bullshit. And the truth is, I don't even... Well, because the problem is, Dan Reed is trying to make people think, oh, a lot of people have been complaining about how the first film was one-sided, so we want to bring the fans into this. No, that's not what it is. He wants to find another way to try to assume that MJ fans are just crazy. Well, you know what, Dan Reed? If your film was truthful, which it wasn't, then why did you edit out a big chunk of the mockumentary when the truth came out? Because you didn't do research, and you admitted to it. You said you were not interested in Michael's side of the story, when there are two sides of every story. Oh, yeah, so I really hate that this is happening, but the second mockumentary will flop, just like the first one did. And according to Teresa Loves Michael Jackson and Harry Styles, apparently she heard a rumor that LN2 might be coming out at the same time as the biopic, which is a horrible situation. I really hope that that doesn't happen. Because, Dan Reed, this is why we despise you. Because you are so desperate to ruin Michael's legacy over something that didn't happen. You are a failure as a director. I don't give a shit how many war documentaries you made. Those are probably not truthful either. But let me tell you something. You really started a war now since 2019. And I'm sick of it. It always frustrates me when I see people like Roxanne and other haters like her trying to spread lies that were proven false decades ago. And I know people are entitled to their opinion, blah, 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 blah. But you have to use facts. You cannot use, like, oh, I'm assuming that he's guilty. No. You have to provide proof. MJ haters have asked me all the time, like, what would convince you that Michael's guilty? And I'm like, proof. You have to show me proof, not propaganda. And you really expect us to take you seriously, Dan Reed, when you literally was reshooting things from the mockumentary. There was even a part in the mockumentary where it was literally a different season than it was originally. Props were in different places, which it was just really ridiculous. And so many things had to be reshoot because they were either not faking it well enough and stuff like that. That is so pathetic. But one thing I will say is Taj Jackson was talking to the MJ cast recently, and he said that he's going to try to release his documentary series before the biopic comes out. So hopefully, if Taj can get it out there, then more people would know about that information. And then when the biopic comes out, hopefully no one will pay attention to the mockumentary too. And the truth is, I did get a little backlash from a few people when I confessed that I did not watch LN back in 2019. Well, first of all, even though I did not see it in full, I have seen parts of it that were available on YouTube. You know, I don't have HBO, and I wasn't going to pay YouTube to watch it. And if you think about it, Dan Reed did not want MJ fans to see it anyway. How do I know that? Well, because there was someone in the MJ community who I used to be friends with, but we kind of, you know, that's a big mess, but that's a different story. But he told me, back when we were friends, that one of his friends attended the Sundance Festival when the mockumentary premiered in 2019. And when his friend was in line, the people who were screening everyone in the line said that if you are an MJ fan, you are not allowed to attend the premiere, and you cannot attend the Q&A with Wade and James. Isn't that interesting? And the truth is, if the mockumentary was on a channel that I actually had access to, I'll admit, it would make it a little easier to debunk it, piece by piece. But here's the thing. I've read articles about what was said in the mockumentary and the facts and evidence to contradict it. And I've listened to multiple podcasts that also talk about what was said in the mockumentary and what actually happened. So it might not be exactly the same as watching the mockumentary, but if you're going to make it difficult for people to have access to it, what do you expect? I am not going to buy HBO. I am not going to pay YouTube to watch something that's been completely debunked. And the fact that Wade and James refused to take a polygraph test, I'm even more convinced that they are nothing but liars, even though we've known that for years. So why should I watch it? So Dan Reed, you have a lot of nerve. I mean, Michael has been gone for almost 15 years. It'll be 15 years in June. Leave him alone. Let the poor man rest. Michael's family is suffering from this. And now we have another situation with Jermaine, which I'll talk about in a separate video. But seriously, you are so heartless, Dan Reed. And you should be ashamed of yourself. And I also know that John Ziegler invited you to be on his show once, and you declined. And you know why? Because John Ziegler would destroy you. He would ask you questions that you wouldn't be able to answer without exposing Wade and James as liars. And deep down, you know they are not telling the truth. Even Oprah knows they're not telling the truth. She was at Neverland in early 93. She knew the train station wasn't there, but when the lie came out, oh no, like sometimes victims get the day of the week or the time of day wrong, even though James didn't even say those things. He said every day, 4 years straight, which is bullshit on its own. I mean, do you really want us to believe that James was at Neverland every single day between the ages of 10 to 14? No. So if you get an email from Dan Reed, just send it to Andy Signor from Popcorn Planet, or even take a screenshot of it and send it to me on Instagram, or I guess on Twitter for now. But I heard that Twitter is going to start charging people for using the social media platform, which is stupid. So I'm probably going to leave Twitter when that happens, if it's true. So, yeah, if I leave Twitter, you can definitely reach me on Instagram, but my account is private to keep MJ haters out. Yeah. So if Dan Reed has emailed you, please tell me in the comments, tell me what was, did you respond to him? Like, did he say, what did he say specifically to you and stuff like that? Yeah, this is just frustrating, because Michael needs to be able to rest in peace. But even though Dan Reed hasn't reached out to me, if you ever do, Dan Reed, I basically only have 2 words to say to you. Fuck you.